are it. But there also is the possibility that one of the guys isn't.
But Shefty, my point is this: we know Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett aren't it. We know that. As far as like the long-term starting quarterback guy, we know that.
Well, hold on, those two guys. Kenny Pickett, and I'm not saying the chances are you're absolutely right.
Yep.
But what if Kenny Pickett is Baker Mayfield? What if Kenny Pickett is Sam Darnold? What if Kenny Pickett, who was a first-round draft, develops like? I understand what you're saying. He's bounced around, but there have been other former first-round picks that have bounced around that later on have had something of a resurgence. The chances are it won't happen. I got it.
Right.
But that's what this year is about. Like, let's see what he can do for Kevin Stefanski and see if there's any hope to rebound him to the type of talent and potential he has. Okay, he can't do it, no problem. We know what Joe Flacco is. You got to find out what the two look like. You got to get some answers on these quarterbacks, and it could be that none of them are the answers, but that's why it is the most interesting room, in my mind, in the NFL this summer, the Cleveland Browns quarterback room, with those four guys, and Deshaun Watson not even mentioned in the conversation.
Right. Lewis, the other thing about this is we've heard that Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco kind of splitting first-team reps. We'll keep an eye on today as you're looking at live practice right now, who actually takes the first-team reps. How do you get enough reps for these guys?
You don't.
Right.
That's the problem. See, that's where like a lot of this it's just flapping your jaws and just talking here when we're saying, well, they got to find out. Quite honestly, you don't have time to find out in a nice, fair, like balanced, organic way, because you're trying to get ready to like play the season, right? So there's only so many reps to go around, and it's not like practices are the same way they used to be when I played. I mean, these guys basically practice once a day, okay? And so I mean, it's like you don't have enough reps. And see, here's the thing: like to me, it feels so much like they've already almost like kind of boxed themselves into the fact that look, we have so much draft capital a year from now that we don't really, you know what, if it works out, if we struck gold, great. If we don't, that's fine, because you know what, we have all this draft capital next year, and one of those guys next year is bound to be a franchise quarterback. So, hey, it is what it is. And you know what's interesting? Look, the Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders thing, I was just talking about this just the other day on radio. The front office, having been in this situation for 11 years, you really think that the front office is sitting there going, look, we drafted Dylan in the 3rd, we drafted Shedeur in the 5th. Do you really think they want to see the 5th round kind of like beat out the 1st round guy? I mean, the 3rd round guy? No, hell no, they don't want that to happen because it makes them look bad.
Right.
It's like, well, why didn't you pick them the opposite way? So there's so many biases that they're going to have to work through, and then you don't have a whole lot of reps to go around. This is a much tougher situation than it looks like.
But if Shedeur outplays Dylan Gabriel, then that's the way it is. Like, then the 5 beats out the 3.
True, if he gets enough reps in time to beat out the 3rd round.
It's not like either one is a 1. It's a 5 and a 3 with 2 ones on deck.
Yeah, that sounds great as we're sitting here. That sounds great. He needs enough reps to do that too, though, Adam.
Well,
he needs enough time to do that.
With 4 guys, that's a problem.
Exactly. That's where I'm saying, like, this is not a very easy situation.
With 4 guys practicing and reps kind of being minimal for all of them, it makes you feel like, and maybe this is a misread, Shefty can probably correct me, makes you feel like there's a pretty decent chance that Joe Flacco or maybe Kenny Pickett, those are the 2 likeliest week 1 starters.
Absolutely.
Joe Flacco, he's had a million practices, he's been in this system previously, he's familiar, he's probably the favorite to start in week 1. And then it kind of feels like this. Listen, if they start 4-1 with Joe Flacco, and I don't know how likely that is, he'll keep on playing. But you just work your way through the order, right? Joe Flacco plays, and if you struggle, and he takes his turn, just keep going. You know what don't you like about that?
The head coach and the general manager got to win, though. Like, that seat is not cold, and they know that. They know that, and I think highly of both of them.
Yeah.
But they can't go through another season of like.
They've been piecing that together.
If that's the case.
They have the draft capital, and again, when you're talking about the rookie quarterback starting, point I want to make, if you're not a first-round draft pick, how many times have we seen a mid-round pick come on in his rookie year of camp and win a starting job? The times I can remember. Russell Wilson as a 3rd-round pick when he shined in the summer and clearly outplayed Matt Flynn and Charlie Whitehurst and Dak Prescott. Those are the two that I remember. Both guys lit it up in the summer. Now, we may see Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, despite the lack of reps. We may see one of them come out and light it up. But in my mind, that's what it takes when you're a middle round pick to win a starting job. You have to.
You got to leave no doubt.
Clearly
Right.
outplay your competition.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
All right, so obviously we're going to keep talking about this Browns quarterback situation. It's crazy. They had a really good running back draft. Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson. I like those two picks. They still got Miles. Are with their coaching staff. John Morton takes over for Ben Johnson as offensive coordinator. Kelvin Shepard takes over for Aaron Glenn as defensive coordinator. And with how good their offense was, defense was a focus this offseason, adding cornerbacks DJ Reed, Avonte Maddox, as well as defensive tackle Roy Lewis. For their first-round pick, they took D-tackle Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. So we're going to go to live footage of their practice in just a little bit. We'll see them right now on the field. Dan, what are you thinking about the coordinator change and how much that really will make a difference on offense? Let's start there and then we'll move to the defense.
It'll make a big difference. I think Detroit is one of those prime cases that they will be a very different, I think, better football team in November and December than the first part of what we see in September. This new offensive coordinator's got to figure out who this team is, and this team has to figure out who this offensive coordinator is. A lot of times we talk about play calling, and we only focus it on that individual play caller. But it's so much more connected than that. And so Johnny Morton comes over, and he's got to figure out, like, who's this offensive line without Frank Ragnow? You know, Tate Ratledge, he's not going to be who he is in September, who he'll be in November. You know what I'm saying? He's going to get better if that's going to be the guy. So he's got to figure out who this offense is as this season goes on. Ben Johnson knew exactly where they were because it was a couple years in. So I just think that the expectations for this football team should still be ridiculously high, but for their fans, give them till November-ish to really figure out how Super Bowl contender you actually are.
Tate Ratledge, a lot of experience at Georgia, but now filling that void at center. How do you expect him to play there?
Yeah, he's a college guard, so he's got experience playing near the center spot, but hasn't played it much, at least not recently. I thought this player was terrific during his 4 years at Georgia. This was a guy who actually had that tightrope surgery on his ankle in the middle of the year last year and came back, and I thought somehow looked better during the concluding weeks of Georgia's season. Super experienced, great athlete. I'm not concerned about the eventual transition to the NFL, but you're putting a lot on the plate because you're not replacing some average center. You're replacing Frank Ragnow, who is arguably, not just one of the best, but probably the toughest player on this team. There's some legendary stories about what he brought to the table for the interior of the offensive line. Perhaps one of the biggest retentions for this team this offseason was Hank Fraley, their offensive line coach. Played a long time in this league, had a lot of suitors. I think Ben Johnson would have loved to have had him in Chicago. He interviewed for the Seahawks offensive coordinator spot. So at least a little bit of continuity along the position group side for a team that is going to see at least 40% of his offensive line look different this year.
Yeah, look, Tate's film is really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. He's a really good football player. And look, obviously, John Morton has to figure out exactly how to make sure that it all seamlessly fits together. This offensive line had a little bit of a step back a year ago as far as its blocking efficiency. But look, they need to really reestablish their dominance up front here as far as being able to capture the line of scrimmage and really pound people and bludgeon people. Because look, if you're a new offensive coordinator, that's probably one of the number one things that you want to make sure that you can do is make sure you can capture a line of scrimmage. Everything builds off of that. What was interesting is, like, I heard some stuff about how they want to use Jahmyr Gibbs this year and how Jahmyr has talked about the fact that I will be deployed a little bit differently. A lot more usage as a wide receiver, a lot more variance in terms of where they line me up, which I think is fantastic because the dude is just ridiculous. Keep an eye out for this name, too, speaking of the draft. Isaac Teslal, the wide receiver from Arkansas, who they picked up, who is just a big, tall, fast son of a gun that they're going to be able to put in the middle. Him and Jameson Williams now, I mean, come on now. Yeah. When you think about that kind of combination along with Amon-Ra St. Brown, they're loaded up. The concern I still have for Detroit, though, can they rush the passer still? Can they still rush the passer? Because look, okay, Tyleik Williams is a good player. He is a hell of an athlete, a big body, he's athletic as hell. Well, you were in the bottom third in the league in pass rush win rate last year. And Tyleik really jumped that up now.
That helps.
It does, but it's one dude, right? Tyleik has to be a force in the middle. There's a few questions, but look, that dude right there on your screen, man, if it's someone who'll figure it out, he'll figure it out.
You bring that pass rush up front. They're still waiting for Aleem McNeil to get back. Not fully back yet. You mentioned Ben Johnson. No Aaron Glenn on the defensive side of football. Not only no Ben Johnson, no Aaron Glenn. They lost 8 coaches in all. And you mentioned Field, they keep Hank Fraley, big keep for that organization, but that's a lot of change.
Sure is.
That any team has to overcome when you lose a Pro Bowl caliber center in Frank Ragnow, when you lose 8 assistant coaches, including both coordinators. I just think that that's a lot. And they're so good that they're capable of overcoming it because that's how much leadership they have, that's how much talent they have, and they've done a great job at identifying and drafting talent in recent years.
For sure.
The long game, I just think is really important for this team this year. They've done such a good job, long game, as an organization in the rebuild. But we've talked about the offense in Ragnow. It's also in the names that were mentioned. Hutchinson's got to get healthy. Aleem McNeil has to get healthy. They'll be much healthier in November and December than they will be in September. This also has the chance to be one of the best secondaries in football with the addition of DJ Reed. Brian Branch is fantastic. So I just think, like, the expectations will be for them to hit the ground running and come out like gangbusters in September.
Sure.
I don't think they're going to be the football team that they will eventually when it comes to, like, the matchup. I just think that they're one of those teams that is going to be much, much better in November and December than they are in September.
One of the things we heard yesterday from Jeremy Fowler, he was there, is that Jameson Williams is going to have an even bigger role in this offense and not just be a guy that's a
They got to figure that out, though.
Right.
They got to figure that out.
Jared Goff may have a little bit more ownership on this offense for the first time in his career. It was more Ben Johnson's offense before. We'll see the Bears camp in a little bit, by the way. We'll check in on Ben Johnson now as a head coach there. But here's more of our schedule, what we're looking right. Here's the schedule. We've already checked in with a lot of these camps. We're switching to the right side of the screen because it's getting later in the day, of course, in the 10 a.m. hour. Panthers, Texans, Eagles. You'll see the Patriots. And then a little break before we see some of those teams on the far right side. The Steelers going to be fascinating. Aaron Rodgers trotting out there on the field. We're going live to all of these camps. So everything you're seeing is like a front row seat there at the camps. You got Field Yates, you got Dan Orlovsky, Louis Riddick, Adam Schefter with you throughout. We've got a lot to get to, you guys. Let's start with our storylines that we're most interested in. Dan, kick us off here as we cross 10 a.m.
The Patriots' first 3 picks, I'm obsessed with them. You know, Will Campbell in the first round, the protection for Drake May on the backside, then Travion Henderson in the second round at running back, and then Kyle Williams. I think Kyle Williams has the chance to be as impactful a rookie receiver that we have in the NFL this year. And if those 3 rookies can be big-time players for the Patriots, there's a chance this organization and team are going to make noise a lot sooner than people expect.
Yeah, look, for me, it's all about Terry McLaurin. It's all about this situation, this contract situation. Look, Field and I, we were discussing it. Like, where exactly do you try and get him to on an average per year basis? And look, if I'm Terry McLaurin right now, I'm looking at a guy like Brandon Ayuk, and I'm going, hold on, Brandon Ayuk is right around $30 million per year. He goes, I know I'm as important to my football team as he is to his. I'm damn near a lot more important. So I think that's kind of where you got to get this guy to in order to get him in the camp, because every day that he misses right now, all you're doing is increasing the chances that Jayden has some kind of setback. You've got to have this guy in there. I know we're only in July. Get him in the camp.
Yeah, Jayden had the best rookie season for any quarterback in NFL history last year. Bo Nix was also tremendous, but the other 4 members of that 6 first-round pick quarterback class in 2024, I've got my eyes on this